God Almighty. These two words simultaneously give me diarrhea and make me want to kill myself. For those in the unacquainted section, the words Van Helsing aren't in reference to Abraham Van Helsing from Stoker's novel. No. The words Van Helsing are in reference to the 2004 abomination. They call it a film, but it really is an abomination produced by Universal Studios. These two words, when said aloud, make animals howl in pain. These two words are more feared than picking up the soap in jail. These two words constitute a level of shit-filled, tortured nightmares. I'd rather hang around a pack of hippies singing songs and touching themselves than watch this film. I'd rather take my testicles and have a rabid moose chew on them than watch this film. This is raw and unfiltered fuckery, from the black heart of Universal Studios to the unsuspecting audiences of the world.
Welcome to my house, Mr. Harker. Come freely, go safely.
I condemn you to living death. My name is Dracula.
You would play your brains against mine.
Against me.
Welcome to Season 3 of the Dracula Podcast, the sexiest show on the internet. Thank you to friends, family, sponsors, and most of all, you for listening. Looking for a great listen? You found it. The best of screen, script, stage, and scene dedicated to the legacy of the King, Bram Stoker. Drop us a line, get in touch with us at the Dracula Podcast on Facebook. Check out our archives at southgatemediagroup.com and take the ride. iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, we are literally everywhere. I'm a little bit more aggressive this week because, one, I've been ill, and two, I've been dealing, well, let's just put it this way. If you're in West Virginia and you have to deal with doctors in the medical community, God help you. God help you. There needs to be some kind of exorcism. Someone needs to light candles or sing songs or something, because there is something fundamentally wrong, amiss, in the West Virginia medical community. It's this indefinable wrong. Weird, sarcastic, we don't know what to do, we're going to manage liability. And these numbnuts have a chance of swaying the quality of life. If you don't have the gumption to take charge of your own health, you can drown. Although, here's the good news. I wanted one thing for Christmas, and I didn't think I would get it because we all have ups and downs. However, for the first time since 2003, I am under 300 pounds. My total weight loss has been 251 pounds. I didn't have any surgeries. I didn't do any weird diets. It's just raw, unbridled work, want to. It's just the need to better yourself. And no one's going to do it but you. And I know a lot of people have asked me about weight loss. Honestly, you've got to get your head right, because if you don't have your head right, you are not going to get your body right. The argument about cost, then you see 500-pound tubs of ass like I was, although I was 550, buying Husson's Pizza, stuffing their face with burritos, drinking Coke, and then you see how much that costs during the week. Pizza isn't cheap, neither is Coke. If you want to get better in your life, you got to take charge of it. You have got to initiate it. You have got to want it. There are people who will help you, but you have to be the one to shout help. That's really what I've learned this holiday season. I've come a long way. My second dream goal is right on the horizon. It ties directly into this podcast. I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Who cares if someone says Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays? It's all in the same goodwill. Come on, guys, and I'm talking to you guys on the left. Stop getting offended when someone tries to wish you a kindness. Guys on the right, there's no war on Christmas. Calm down, okay? We're all in it together. We're all going through the same stuff. Put the smartphones down and take time to actually, enjoy each other's company, because as Stoker's novel tells us, life is short. You gotta fight for every single inch. Despite the earlier rant about my least favorite film of all time, the subject of this podcast is the legacy of Francis Ford Coppola. It was always a good film, and I knew it was profitable, and I knew people loved it, but I didn't know how long the legacy lasted. I suppose people saw it before I did. You had Lugosi in 1931, you had Christopher Lee in 1958. Some would argue Frank Langella in 1979, but that was more of a cult movement. And then you have Gary Oldman in 1992 as the Dracula of your generation. Gary Oldman, to most, is the Dracula of now. It's the most consumable Dracula media there is. You can play it on video games, board games. You can listen to the soundtrack. You can read the script. You can read the novelization by Fred Saberhagen. You can buy it in every single format possible. You can stream it, ream it, although showing it to kids might not be the best thing. Monica Bellucci and the two others. Exactly. But there's so much to tackle about what Sony and Francis Ford Coppola did in 1992. It was a bit ahead of its time. The rest of the pack couldn't keep up. We'll get into that and the rest, but we've got to pay some bills, and then we'll be right back at you with the Dracula podcast. Here we go.
They come from the forest.
Did you say the blessing, sweetie?
Yes, Mommy.
They come from your neighborhoods. And they're coming for you.
Give me that Bible, man.
Mommy!
Tree huggers, hippies, commies, and freaks are coming for you and your families. But guess what? The days of their drug-induced violence are over because Governor J.K. James is taking out the trash.
No, please.
Oh, yeah. With your help, we can send the dirty hippies back to the communes where they belong.
Hello there. My name is J.K. James, candidate for governor in 2024. After long discussions with my family, friends, my 572 mistresses, the Russian mob, Holly Walnuts, as well as each one of my 23 illegitimate children, I will be running for you. The idea came to me one night as I bathed in the blood of puppies and homeless people. The environmental laws hindering West Virginia are killing our jobs. Mountains, trees, rivers, tourist attractions, fish, hiking, and demented geese are taking money out of your pocket. So whenever you see an animal crossing the road, you gun the engine and run the furry communists down, because every dead animal is another job saved. As for the children, they are killing us. Would you rather see an unemployed Best Mart associate and a happy child, or a solid 87 cents an hour job for your family and a child in tears? That's why I'm bringing back capital punishment for children, because they are not contributing to our economy. Clean water is a joke, people. It's time to drink coal like a real man. Our donors and their mistresses are suffering, like my buddy Rich Hinkle, a kind man who needs the blood of baby deer to survive. I will save the millionaire class in West Virginia because they are being threatened by clean water, fresh air, and terrorist gerbils. So pump out your cash, pump off your mistress, and let's get to the polls. Together, we will send West Virginia back to the Dark Ages, where you, hippies, can go to hell.
Paid for by J.K. James, American Environmental, the Chump Organization, Him Sung Hu, WS54, and people like you.
Hey, we are back at the Dracula podcast. Who would have known that we would have had political ads on this show? Now, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have someone in your life, or it might be you, who is a, quote, collector of Dracula memorabilia, and there's a lot of cool stuff out there. Here are some tips just from me to you on some cool things that people would like this holiday season. As discussed on the first episode of the third season of this podcast, Dracula is the way to go. There are two books which really define the Dracula mythos. One is Dracula and one is Dracula. Though I consider Dracula a bit of an Elseworlds type, the pace is just so good. It's going to be cold and it's dark a lot outside, and I suggest this book wholeheartedly. My nitpicks with the novel are exactly that, nitpicks. Buy this book today. I've listened to the audio version. I've read the novel 3 times, and it's a treat. During rehearsal on my horror production in October called Of Devils and Men, I would just sit and reread this thing and just take it all in, Because the first time it took me 5 hours, I just enjoyed it so much. It was like crack. The best crack I've ever had. And you know what kind of crack I'm talking about, ladies. I'm just kidding. Kind of.
Yeah, right. I've got the vintage 1875 Jefferson Davis anal pump. He's been in my family for a few years. It was my grandpappy's, and he used to use it during the Klan rallies.
Yes, sir.
He was a mean old bastard. I think that was him calling before. During the Klan rallies, they'd lube themselves up with motor oil and scare children.
Uh-huh.
Then they'd make out and play the banjo. Hello?
And as for gaming in the Dracula world, there is a board game called Fury of Dracula. This appeals to folks who like geography, intrigue, and most of all, the 47-year-old men who live in Mom's basement and haven't been able to get out. This might be your first step in getting out of Mom's basement. It's called Fury of Dracula. They've had 3 or 4 editions. I've played the 2nd edition. I'm not familiar with the 3rd, but the 3rd is extremely highly rated. Will Wheaton's Tabletop Show on YouTube did a 2-part episode on this very game, and I suggest that you watch it and check it out. Definitely worth it. You might notice that it costs perhaps a little bit more than the video game. You will get more playtime out of this and more enjoyment, and there's more customization. Just to give you the quick and dirty of it, one person plays as Dracula and the other people play as hunters, minus Jonathan Harker and Quincy Morris. Quincy Morris, of course, has passed away, as it does take place after the novel. Jonathan Harker, that's a little bit of a surprise. Fury of Dracula, and you will get hours and hours and hours and hours of really good stuff. If you're stuck inside behind snowy doors and all kinds of nasty weather, this is the way to go. La La Land Records has released an extended version of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the soundtrack by Wojciech Kyler. It's amazing. I've got to get it. The artwork by itself is definitely worth the purchase. It's one for the ages, another little hint of Bram Stoker's legacy.
This stream of anal rain has done more harm to the world than the plague.
And if you like film, here is my recommendation. Do not watch Van Helsing. That's right, folks.
And these fuckers did a really good job at covering it up, too. These idiots have convinced some people, still, that the film is actually good. Hugh Jackman, Techno-Cowboy Wolverine, should be amazing. Dracula, the Frankenstein's monster, and the Wolfman, whoa, I've never heard of that before. And 3 sexy vampire girls, and Kate Beckinsale, boner alert. And the guy who did The Mummy directed it, oh, sex! Except, it's all a big fat lie.
I sound a little bit under the weather, and that's because I've just watched the film. Coincidence? I think not. But there's all kinds of good stuff out there. If you want a specific something to go ahead and get something for your family, get in touch with me at The Dracula Podcast on Facebook. Type in The Dracula Podcast. Bram Stoker's Dracula is the beacon of Dracula media. It's been that way since 1992. Any way you want to get it, you can get it. Watch it, play it. You can listen to it. You can read it. The costumes, the sound design, the sets, art, the editing. Jonathan Harker's performance was terrible. Some, including Coppola, have tried to defend it. There's no excuse for that. Bill Campbell, Sadie Frost, Cary Elwes, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, and Gary Oldman? Are you kidding me? Coppola directed this. If you don't know who Francis Ford Coppola is, if you've heard of the films Apocalypse Now and The Godfather, that's the guy that did them. And he did Dracula. I've got problems with the film. I can look at this film objectively and subjectively. Objectively, on its own, it's great. It's one of my 3 favorite Dracula properties. Critically and commercially, it's a success. But the deviations from the film are exactly what hinders it. There is no discussion on this. Count Dracula and Vlad the Impaler have absolutely nothing to do with each other. Fairly soon I'm going to have a guest on here who's going to tell you exactly why, and as it was detailed in his book, Dracula Incarnate, Andy Struthers. We will tackle that subject on another time. Because of that, they try to make Dracula a hero. Guys, he's not a hero. He sexually assaulted Lucy. He murdered the entire crew of the Demeter. He murdered Lucy. By proxy, he murdered Quincy Morris. He assaulted Mina Harker. He imprisoned Jonathan Harker. Animal abuse? He gave a baby to the 3 sisters. This guy is as bad as it gets in literature. If you looked at the novel with a critical eye, there is no way that you can buy Dracula as a romantic person. And yet on its own, Bram Stoker's Dracula is a great film. Looking at the script, Jonathan Harker's arc was present, but it wasn't in the foreground as much as it needed to be. Some of the stuff they did with Vlad Dracula could have been replaced with Jonathan Harker, and it would have been a much more effective tale. Confidence to uncertainty, to terror, to insanity, building himself back up again, to becoming a married man, and then losing it again. It's a great arc, and it needs more light on it. I'm very happy Quincy Morris and Arthur Homewood are in the film consistently, but they have a relationship with Mina as well. Mina is trying to take care of these broken men, and it shows the maternal influence. But that leads me into my last problem, and they try to sexualize the women. It's not good. The reason why Dracula was so powerful was because of Mina's fidelity. When you see Mina trying to seduce Van Helsing, it does a disservice to the novel. And you can sort of see it coming, that slow progression, but she's still fighting it. To give in entirely is not good. And Lucy Westerner, she is not a Hoa. And unfortunately, Universal Studios has latched onto that so hard that in season 1 of Dracula, they ruined that character. Bram Stoker's Dracula is also on 4K. I have the Blu-ray restoration of the DVD. It's not like Dracula 79 where they washed the colors out of it. They improved everything. At times they change the frame rates in the film and they bring out the sound to the best possible quality. Sony, the filmmakers, the restorers, fantastic job in keeping this film in the public eye. And before we continue with the Dracula podcast, let's take a listen to some of our friends, and then we'll be right back at you. Here we go.
My name is Simon West, and I'm an elected official for the state of West Virginia. Last month, I was audited for taxes by the IRS and Committee for Appalachian Ethics. My wife and I, we only make $340,000 a year. We can't even afford a second vacation home. Oh my God!
My name is Valerie Bell, and I work for the court. What is wrong with you people? So what if I spent $30,000 for a couch in my office? Do you know how many drug dealers I'm trying to pay off?
My name is Hanky Hughes, and y'all know who I is. You know, I am sick and tired of having nothing. Last night I went to Ye Old Fine Dining for Schmucks, and yes, I had the golden edible undie salad with a side of fries. But now, the news is getting on me for buying lingerie for my secretary. And you know what? So what if I run around naked to the streets with nothing on but cowboy boots and a smile? Leave me alone, people.
The concept of techno-cowboy Wolverine may look like a good idea if one were on cocaine, but I'm not on cocaine, unfortunately. And from the first sequence, you see it. It's actually so stupid that you lose IQ points during the film, and you forget your sense of taste. 3 monsters in a film together sounds good. It's been done before, much better, by the same damn studio. Universal did it 3 times before in the 1940s. House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and a great film called Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which knew its identity to make people laugh and entertainment. But the best film version is the Monster Squad, which wins in every single way. Even on television they did it better, penny fucking dreadful. But the first clue to the poo should be that it's not Lawrence Talbot, but Velkin. And the werewolves actually look good in certain frames, sucking you in, IQ going even lower, and then comes 3 exceptionally attractive ladies in cleavage dresses as the Draculadies. Dracula's a lucky guy laying pipe and waxing ass for the last couple hundred years, but then you see the result. Dracula's goal. The result of a couple hundred years of sexy time. But by that time, you've seen so much cleavage that you just don't care anymore, and now you're as dumb as a bag of ass. And then comes her royal hotness, Kate Beckinsale. She's beautiful and ungodly sexy. But then you listen to her voice and the lines. But you've received so much mental trauma that you don't know what good is. Your sense of taste has been erased.
We are back on the 3rd episode of Season 3 of the Dracula podcast. Thank you all for listening. Thank you once again to Southgate Media and friends and family and anyone who has sent me positive vibes this year. I really appreciate it. That's the point. The hard thing to do, the brave thing to do, is really to extend kindness, because it's so easy to tear somebody down and rip them up. It's a whole lot more powerful, braver, and more enduring to lift someone up. This is the age of narcissism. Buck that trend. Castlevania II: Simon's Quest on the NES. People hate this game, but I have an admission for you. It's my favorite. And I'm not saying that as an attempt to be contrarian. I genuinely love Castlevania II. I love the mood, I love the atmosphere, I love the gameplay, I like the mystery angle, I like the fact that you can go back and forth and collect hearts. Castlevania II: Simon's Quest is an RPG. Role-playing game, not the explosive device, for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's filled with clues and items and upgrades. It's really a great adventure to go on. I know people hate the tornado, I know people hate the church, but it's really a game for mood and atmosphere. And it's a game where you can take your time and enjoy what you're doing to really savor the gameplay. And I was just a kid when I got a hold of this thing, and I got it brand new. Even the box, which has a very spooky and striking similarity to the novel I Strahd by P.N. Elrod. Strahd von Zarovich is essentially the Dracula of Dungeons & Dragons, a book which I recommend reading. But what Castlevania 2 does is it takes the idea from the first game and it takes it in a different direction. The first game was more slash, hack, jump, whip, grab the candles, grab the hearts, whip some more. Oh crap, here comes the hunchbacks, whip. But on this, you got to take your time. You got to slow down. A lot of this stuff you had to figure out and savor the experience. There are problems with this game. When you get to Dracula's castle, it's an open and empty hallway, which you would expect something more. And the end boss is very easy. You can get a hold of this thing in the NES Classic, which is basically a smaller version of the NES, which you can plug into HDMI cable. $60, $70. Another good Christmas buy. We're going to take a very short break. So let's have some fun at the TDP, the Dracula podcast.
I went on a date once. It took me forever to get out of the basement. My mom drove us to the restaurant. She ordered the fries. Then Mom drove us home, and we started to make out on the couch. Took off my pants, and she saw my tiny whities. And she ran away.
Thousands of grown men in their mother's basements everywhere have a problem with wiping themselves. Don't let skid marks and mud butt ruin your slide and grind. Use our new poo-poo hoo-hoo spray, and your virginity will be gone faster than the chronically unemployed run from job applications. Poo-poo hoo-hoo. We're here for you.
From December 15th, we've got a good review of Dracula from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Seriously, guys, if you have not read Dracula, pause the podcast or listen to it and get out there and grab that book. And just a reminder that Netflix has renewed Castlevania IV Season 3. More than likely, it will come out in 2019. Some might say the first half, but I think a Q2, Q3 release is a pretty good bet. Richard Armitage from the Hobbit trilogy, and also starring in my favorite show, Hannibal, playing the great Francis Dollarhide in the Red Dragon sequence in Season 3. Speaking of threes, 3 has been my unlucky number when it comes to television. My favorite television show that's on the air has been cut off after season 3 times in a row. First, it was Hannibal. Then it was Penny Dreadful. Then Daredevil. I'm afraid to say my favorite TV show now. It's not Castlevania, I don't think, but this really concerns me. So when it comes to TV, I'm just doomed, I suppose. There's another article from comingsoon.net asking what happened to Universal's monster movies. And if you've listened to this podcast, you know exactly what happened to Universal's monster movies. If you want to know in detail, listen to the link called An Ugly, Dark Universe. It goes through the whole history, the whole mess of how they've tried to bring back the Universal Monsters franchise, and it's just wrong. It's from the top down. This is what happens when executives get involved in the specific creative processes, overstepping the director and overstepping the script. It's not good. That's why people didn't like Justice League. That's why people didn't like Dracula Untold or that Mummy film with Tom Cruise, which we expounded about on an earlier episode. It's really torture for us at this point, especially Dracula connoisseurs, because they quote that Robert Vargas, an LA-based artist, post on Instagram that he had a great meeting this morning with an amazing Dark Universe team on May 10th, 2018. It was a long time ago, and he teased that monster things are in the works. Guys, don't post this stuff, because it'll give them hope, and we don't need Universal producing these monster movies anymore. Let it go. They don't know how to do it. But if he's the guy who I think he is, Robert Vargas's biggest project to date was doing visual effects for Space Cowboys, a film that I liked. But remember how we talked about Alex Kurtzman, about his credits? This person has less credits than Alex Kurtzman, who is still attached to a bunch of films which hopefully will never, ever, ever be produced. It's just a hot mess. Universal does not know what they're doing with their monsters. They do not listen to the fans. They are not learning from their mistakes. Does he have any experience directing? Does he have any experience in writing? If I'm looking at the correct IMDb page, no, he doesn't. And that's why having a great filmmaker at the helm and a great script first is paramount. And you want to know why none of these projects are taking off? Because the scripts stink. And when you have 10 people in the, quote, writer's room collaborating on the same projects and throwing it around, it's a circle jerk. It's a mess. Who wants to have that with the studio heads micromanaging you like West Virginia government? Who wants that? No one wants that. You're not going to get a James Wan or a Tarantino or a serious filmmaker to actually get this stuff. You're going to get stuff like Alex Kurtzman, because that's the best you can do. To make the Universal monsters work, Universal has got to change their business plan, but they won't. They will not. And that's why it's going to fail over and over again. They'll keep re-releasing the stuff. They'll have pictures. They'll keep trying to poke this shared universe. They'll be trying to shop it out. They're going to try to have Tom Cruise go and sell himself to a director and try to get someone on board, but it's going to fail. And guess what? If we do see a film, guys, it's going to suck. And I don't want it to suck. But I am prepared to lay down money that if a Universal Monsters product comes out anytime within the next 7 years, it's going to be awful. And if you don't believe me, take a listen on my commentary about Van Helsing. Then you'll get a sense of my frustration.
This stream of anal rain has done more harm to the world than the plague. And these fuckers did a really good job at covering it up, too. These idiots have convinced some people, still, that the film is actually good. Hugh Jackman, Techno-Cowboy Wolverine, should be amazing. Dracula, the Frankenstein's monster, and the Wolfman, whoa, I've never heard of that before. And 3 sexy vampire girls, and Kate Beckinsale, boner alert. And the guy who did The Mummy directed it, oh, sex! Except, it's all a big fat lie. The concept of Techno-Cowboy Wolverine may look like a good idea if one were on cocaine, but I'm not on cocaine, unfortunately. And from the first sequence, you see it. It's actually so stupid that you lose IQ points during the film, and you forget your sense of taste. 3 monsters in a film together sounds good. It's been done before, much better, by the same damn studio. Universal did it 3 times before in the 1940s. House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and a great film called Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which knew its identity to make people laugh and entertainment. But the best film version is the Monster Squad, which wins in every single way. Even on television they did it better, Penny fucking Dreadful. But the first clue to the poo should be that it's not Lawrence Talbot, but Velkin. And the werewolves actually look good in certain frames, sucking you in, IQ going even lower, and then comes 3 exceptionally attractive ladies in cleavage dresses as the Dracula ladies. Dracula's a lucky guy laying pipe and waxing ass for the last couple hundred years, but then you see the result. Dracula's goal. The result of a couple hundred years of sexy time. But by that time, you've seen so much cleavage that you just don't care anymore, and now you're as dumb as a bag of ass. And then comes her royal hotness, Kate Beckinsale. She's beautiful and ungodly sexy. But then you listen to her voice, and the lines. But you've received so much mental trauma that you don't know what good is. Your sense of taste has been erased.
That is all the time that I have for the Dracula podcast. I apologize for being late this week. I've been under the weather, and I think it's this film's fault, this Van Helsing film's fault. It's done it again. In any case, thank you to Rob and Martha of Southgate Media. Thanks to family, friends, those who've given me support this year, and you guys have been great. There are greater things coming. We've got Moffat and Gatiss producing something really cool for Netflix. We've got Penny Dreadful City of Angels, helmed by John Logan, which is in the works. You've got a delete button, which you can delete Van Helsing from your life permanently. You've got Hotel Transylvania, that whenever I see it in the stores, I just turn it right around because that's what good American citizens do. But most of all, we've got each other. So let's take care of each other. Let's smile, let's laugh a little bit, and I'll leave you with this thought. Sometimes there are times that a journey into the dark can lead you into the light. Have a great day.
And now that all hope is gone, you get to see the director, the head of the film, the auteur, as it were, although I use that word very, very loosely. Stephen Sommers is the cheesiest man in the history of film. He is so cheesy that he should be in the dairy aisle at Kroger's. He's so cheesy that he has been cultivated from the udders and teats of cows. It's so horrible that I actually feel bad for the cows. There is so much cheese oozing from this man's pores that his middle name is Velveeta. So if you're a cheese connoisseur, you'll love Van Helsing.